Now we will discuss neurobiological consideration and especially hemispheric lateralization. We have discussed critical period hypothesis and how children acquire language versus how adults acquire language. But now we will look at the neurobiological consideration that contribute in our understanding of this process. This neurobiological consideration basically deals with the function of brain in acquiring or processing a language, and that how neurobiological development affect second language and its success. Now there is an evidence in neurobiological research that as brain matures, certain functions are assigned to the left hemisphere of brain, and these functions include language function, logical, intellectual, analytical functions, and other certain functions are assigned to right hemisphere, which include emotions or social needs based functions. Then we have, again, in terms of understanding a process of lateralization, Eric Lenberg has used lateralization to express that puberty means the time period when there is a localization of language processing ability in humans' left hemisphere and is connected to the biological development, which means that in language learning in children, they are more flexible as compared to adults. Christian has also proposed that the lateralization is achieved by somewhere around the age of 5, but we have another opposing view by Lemondela, who proposed that the term has been used in a very exaggerated manner, and he used a term sensitive period and believes that the language learning or language acquisition can still occur after the age of 5. So these are certain neurobiological considerations that we have to keep in our mind if we really want to develop our understanding of the concept. One of the most promising area of inquiry in age and acquisition research has been the study of the function of the brain in the process of acquisition. So this is what we are going to discuss now. There is evidence in neurological research that as the human brain matures, we have seen the assignment of certain functions and the lateralization process, which is basically lateralizing to the left hemisphere of the brain and then certain to the right. Language functions appear to be controlled mainly in the left hemisphere, although there is a good deal of conflicting evidence. For example, patients who have had left hemispherectomies have been capable of comprehending and producing an amazing amount of language. Generally, a stroke or accident victim who suffers a lesion in the left hemisphere will manifest some language impairment, which is less often the case with right hemisphere lesion. Crucial question for second language researchers has centered on when lateralization takes place and whether or not that lateralization process affects language acquisition. Now, according to Eric Lenberg, the lateralization is a slow process that begins around the age of 2 and is completed around puberty. During this time, the child is presumably neurologically assigning functions little by little to one side of the brain or the other. Included in these functions, of course, is language. Then we have Scoville and their understanding. Now, Scoville proposed a relationship between literalization and second language acquisition. He suggested that the plasticity of brain prior to puberty enables children to acquire not only their first language but also second language, and therefore they are more superior to adults with regards to this particular aspect. And that possibly it is the very accomplishment of literalization that makes it difficult for people to be able ever again to easily acquire fluent control of a second language, or at least to acquire it with what can be used as an authentic native-like pronunciation. Scoville's research considered the possibility that there is a critical period not only for first language acquisition but also by extension for second language acquisition. To conclude, the understanding of neurobiological considerations requires the ability to distinguish between emergence of literalization, which is at birth but quite evident at the age of 5, and completion, only evident at about puberty, in the process of language acquisition.